The morning sun rose over New Haven, like it had every day for the past 15 years. Jake Morrison stood on his porch, drinking coffee and watching the fields stretch out at the horizon. The corn was growing well this season. The wheat looked good too. In a few months, they would harvest enough food to feed 3 nearby star systems. Jake smiled as he watched children run through the streets on their way to school. Billy Hayes raced his sister Amy to the corner, both of them laughing as they went. Their mother Linda waved from her garden, where she grew the best tomatoes on the colony. Their father worked in the grain storage facility, making sure the food stayed fresh for transport to other worlds. New Haven was home to 50,000 people. Most of them had come from Earth looking for a quiet life. They wanted to grow food, raise families, and live in peace. The planet gave them everything they needed: clean air, good soil, and plenty of space for everyone. Dr. Lisa Carter walked past Jake's house on her way to the medical center. She taught biology at the school 3 days a week and took care of sick people the rest of the time. Lisa had left a big job on Earth to come here. She said she wanted to help build something good instead of just fixing what was broken. "Morning, Jake," she called out. "How are the crops looking?" "Better every day," Jake replied. "We might have our best harvest yet." Jake had been the colony administrator for 8 years. People came to him when they had problems or needed help making decisions. He liked the job because it meant helping his neighbors. Everyone on New Haven was his neighbor. Everyone mattered. The colony had one small security force, led by Carl Jenkins. Carl had been a soldier on Earth, but he came to New Haven because he was tired of fighting. Most days, his biggest problems were settling arguments between farmers or helping find lost animals. A colony had maybe one serious crime per year, usually someone drinking too much and starting a fight. Captain Steve Reynolds commanded the colony's only defense ship, the Guardian. It was a small vessel, built more for rescue work than fighting. Steve used it to help ships that broke down between star systems. He also carried messages to other colonies when the communication array was busy. Steve often said the Guardian was like a fire truck. Everyone hoped they would never really need it, but they felt safer knowing it was there. The ship had some weapons, but they were old and not very powerful. No one expected trouble on the outer rim of human space. The school bell rang at 8 in the morning. Children ran into the building, chattering about their weekend plans. Amy Hayes had found a pretty rock by the stream. Billy wanted to help his father load grain ships when he got older. Their teacher, Mrs. Susan Clark, welcomed them with a warm smile. Susan had been teaching for 30 years, first on Earth and now on New Haven. She said children were the same everywhere. They were curious, full of energy, and ready to learn about the world around them. The New Haven children learned about farming, science, and the history of human space travel at the medical center. Dr. Lisa Carter checked on old Mr. Pete Johnson. Pete had hurt his back working in the fields. Lisa gave him medicine and told him to rest for a few days. Pete grumbled about missing work, but Lisa knew he would follow her advice. Everyone on New Haven trusted her completely. The communication array sat on a hill outside town. It was a big dish that could send messages across space to other colonies and back to Earth. The array also watched for incoming ships and tracked weather patterns. 2 technicians, Bob Miller and Nancy Green, kept it running every day. Jake walked through town after lunch, checking on various projects. The new water treatment plant was almost finished. The community center needed paint. The landing pad where supply ships arrived could use some repairs. These were good problems to have. They meant the colony was growing and successful. In the afternoon, children played in the parks while their parents worked. Some kids played ball games. Others climbed trees or chased butterflies. The older children helped tend the community. Gardens, learning how to grow food they would need as adults. The colony had a simple rhythm. People worked hard during the day and relaxed with their families at night. They had movie nights, town meetings, and harvest festivals. Everyone knew everyone else. When someone needed help, neighbors appeared without being asked. Carl Jenkins walked his usual patrol through town. He stopped to help Mrs. Mary Davis carry groceries. He reminded some teenagers to clean up their mess at the park. He checked the locks on the grain storage buildings. Carl's job was easy because the people of New Haven were good people who looked. After each other as evening approached, families gathered for dinner. The Hayes family sat around their table, talking about their day. Billy told them about the new math lesson at school. Amy showed them her pretty rock. Linda shared news from her garden club. Their father talked about the ships that would come next week to pick up grain. Jake Morrison ate dinner alone, as he had since his wife died 3 years ago. But he did not feel lonely. Through his window, he could see lights in every house. He could hear children laughing and adults talking. The whole colony was his family now. At the communication center, Bob Miller finished his evening report to Earth. Everything was normal on New Haven. Weather was good. Crops were healthy. People were happy. He sent the report and prepared to go home to his own family. Captain Steve Reynolds ran final checks on the Guardian. A ship was ready if anyone needed help. The weapon system showed green lights, though. Steve had never fired them, except during training. He hoped he never would. The galaxy seemed peaceful, and New Haven was far from any trouble. Nancy Green monitored the long-range sensors as part of her night shift. Space around New Haven was empty, except for the usual asteroids and cosmic dust. No ships were scheduled to arrive for another week. She settled in with a book and some coffee, expecting a quiet night. The stars came out as New Haven settled into evening. Parents tucked children into bed with stories and songs. Adults finished their work and relaxed. With books or games, the night shift workers began their duties, keeping the colony safe while others slept. Jake Morrison stood on his porch one more time before bed. The night air was cool and clean. Somewhere in the distance, he could hear music from the town square, where young people sometimes gathered. Everything was as it should be. New Haven was a good place, full of good people living good lives. He had no way of knowing that sensors at the edge of the star system had detected something moving in the darkness. Ships were coming toward New Haven, ships that carried weapons, and soldiers who did not care about peaceful farmers or sleeping children. The last normal night in New Haven's history was ending. Tomorrow would bring terror and death, and the end of everything Jake Morrison had helped build. But tonight, the colony slept peacefully under the stars, unaware that their quiet life was about to become a memory. The emergency transmission from New Haven reached Earth 6 days after the attack. Admiral Patrick Stone sat in his office at Central Command, watching the final moments of Jake Morrison's life play out on the screen. The colony administrator's face was covered in blood, and explosions lit up the sky behind him. "They came without warning," Jake said, his voice breaking. "They're killing everyone, even the children. The schools are burning. Please remember. U.S. Remember what they did here." The transmission cut to static. Admiral Stone closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He had seen combat before, but this was different. This was murder. The aliens had not tried to communicate. They had not demanded surrender. They had simply started killing. The recovered data from New Haven told the full story. The attack ships belonged to something called the Cathvar Dominion. They had destroyed the communication array first, then targeted the school, the medical center, and the residential areas. When people tried to escape, the aliens shot down the evacuation shuttles. Dr. Marcus Webb, head of military intelligence, entered the office with more bad news. Admiral, we've confirmed similar attacks on 3 other colonies. The pattern is always the same. No communication, no demands, just complete destruction. Admiral Stone studied the files. Pine Ridge Colony had been home to 12,000 people. Meadowbrook had housed 8,000. Green Valley had been even smaller, just 3,000 souls trying to build a new life among the stars. All of them were gone now. All of them had been families, farmers, teachers, and children. What do we know about these Kethfer? Admiral Stone asked. They're a military society, Dr. Webb replied. They believe other species are inferior and should be eliminated or enslaved. They've been expanding their territory for decades. We're just the latest targets. President Helen Davis called an emergency meeting of the Global Defense Council. The leaders of every nation on Earth gathered in the secure chamber beneath Central Command. The debate was short. The evidence was clear. Humanity was at war. The question is not whether we respond, President Davis said. The question is how we respond. These aliens have committed genocide against our people. They have murdered children in their schools and families in their homes. General Paul Martinez, leader of the Earth Army, spoke first. We have 47 worlds to protect. We need to focus on defense, not revenge. Admiral Stone stood up slowly. With respect, General, defense is not enough. These aliens chose to target civilians. They chose to murder children. If we only defend, they will keep attacking until every human colony is destroyed. The room fell silent. Everyone had seen the footage from New Haven. Everyone had heard Jake Morrison's final words. What are you suggesting, Admiral? President Davis asked. Total war, Admiral Stone replied. We mobilize every ship, every weapon, every soldier. We find the Kethfer home worlds, and we end their ability to threaten human life forever. The vote was unanimous. Earth would go to war. Admiral Stone returned to his headquarters and began the largest military mobilization in human history. Every warship in the fleet received orders to report for duty. Every reserve officer was called back to service. Every shipyard began working around the clock to build new vessels. Captain Ryan Bell commanded the EDF Vengeance, one of Earth's most powerful warships. He had been visiting his family when the war began. Now he kissed his wife goodbye and promised to return when the job was done. His ship carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. But Ryan knew this war would require more than weapons. Colonel Kate Phillips ran the weapons development program. Her team had been working on new technologies for years, but now they had a specific enemy to target. The Kethfer used energy shields and thick armor. Human weapons would need to be upgraded to penetrate their defenses. I want every bullet, every missile, every energy beam to hit harder than anything we've built before, Colonel Phillips told her engineers. These aliens think they can murder our families without consequences. Let's show them how wrong they are. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner led the Psychological Warfare Division. His job was to study enemy communications and find ways to break their will to fight. The Kethfer believed humans were weak and cowardly. Turner planned to use that belief against them. Fear is a weapon, Turner explained to his team. The Kethfer are not afraid of us yet. They will be. The fleet assembly took 3 weeks. 300 warships gathered in Earth orbit, from massive dreadnoughts to fast attack cruisers. The flagship was the EDF Justice, a kilometer-long battleship armed with weapons that could crack planets. Admiral Stone made it his command vessel. The crews came from every corner of human space. Some were career military officers. Others were reservists who had left the service to become farmers, teachers, or doctors. All of them had volunteered to serve after seeing what happened to New Haven. Captain Danny Morris commanded a squadron of scout ships. His job was to find Keth-4 forces and report their positions. Danny had grown up on a colony world much like New Haven. He knew the aliens could have attacked his home just as easily. "We're not just fighting for revenge," Danny told his pilots. "We're fighting so no other human colony suffers what New Haven suffered. We're fighting so our children can grow up safe." As the fleet prepared to depart, messages arrived from across human space. Colony worlds sent supplies and volunteers. Mining stations offered rare metals for weapons. Even the most remote outposts contributed what they could to the war effort. The final briefing took place in the Justice's main conference room. Every ship captain attended, either in person or by video link. Admiral Stone stood before a holographic display showing Keth-4 territory. "The enemy believes humans are weak because we choose to be peaceful," the Admiral said. "They think mercy is cowardice. They think compassion is weakness. They are about to learn the difference between choosing peace and being unable to fight." He pointed to the star map. "The Keth-4 have 17 major military bases and 43 colony worlds. We are going to visit every single one. We are going to demonstrate that attacking human civilians carries a price they cannot afford to pay." Captain Julie Evans raised her hand. She commanded a stealth frigate designed for special operations. "What about their civilian populations, Admiral?" "We are not them," Admiral Stone replied. "We do not murder children in schools. We do not target hospitals and homes. But every Keth-4 military facility, every government building, every weapons factory will be destroyed. Every leader who ordered attacks on human colonies will be captured and tried for war crimes." The room erupted in determined voices. These officers had seen the footage from New Haven. They had heard the children screaming. They had watched evacuation shuttles full of families shot down in cold blood. Justice demanded action. "One more thing," Admiral Stone said, and the room fell quiet. "The Keth-4 chose to start this war by attacking the innocent. They will end it by facing the consequences of that choice. We are not going to their territory to conquer or to rule. We are going to end their ability to threaten human life." He looked around the room at the faces of his officers. These were good people, decent people who had never wanted to fight a war. But they would fight one now, and they would win it. "The Keth-4 believe we are weak," Admiral Stone concluded. "Let us go and correct their mistake." The fleet departed Earth orbit the next morning. 300 ships carrying the anger and determination of an entire species. They moved through space like a storm front, heading toward Keth-4 territory with one purpose: to ensure that what happened to New Haven would never happen again. Behind them, Earth's shipyards continued building more vessels. The factories produced more weapons. The training centers prepared more soldiers. Humanity had awakened to war, and it would not rest until justice was served. The human fleet reached the edge of Keth-4 space like a gathering thunderstorm. Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of the EDF Justice, watching the enemy territory spread out before them on the tactical display. Somewhere in that vast region of space were the aliens who had murdered the children of New Haven. "Begin Phase 1, Admiral Stone ordered. The first targets were not the main Keth-4 fleets. Admiral Stone had studied the enemy for weeks during the journey. The Keth-4 military depended on supply lines that stretched across dozens of star systems. Cut those lines, and their powerful warships would become helpless. Captain Danny Morris led the scout force into enemy territory. His ships moved like ghosts, using advanced stealth technology to avoid detection. Their job was to map Keth-4 positions and identify the most important supply routes. "Supply convoy spotted in Sector 7, Morris reported from his command ship. 12 cargo vessels with light escort. "Intercept and destroy," Admiral Stone replied. "Take prisoners if possible." The attack was swift and precise. Human ships appeared out of nowhere, disabled the escort vessels, and captured the cargo ships. The supplies were destroyed, but the crews were taken alive for questioning. The humans wanted information about Kethver military organization. Within hours, similar attacks occurred across 6 star systems. Kethver supply convoys vanished without a trace. Food, ammunition, and fuel meant for enemy battle fleets never reached their destinations. The alien commanders found themselves fighting a war against an enemy they could not see. Captain Julie Evans commanded the stealth frigate Shadow. Her ship was designed for special operations behind enemy lines, while other vessels attacked supply convoys. Evans led her crew on a more dangerous mission. The target was a Kethver communication station orbiting a gas giant. The station coordinated military traffic across 3 sectors. Destroying it would blind enemy commanders and prevent them from organizing effective resistance. Approaching the target, Evans whispered into her headset. The Shadow drifted through space, invisible to enemy sensors. The communication station appeared on the view screen, a massive structure bristling with antenna arrays and defensive weapons. Remember, we need the data cores intact, Evans told her boarding team. Intelligence wants to know how these aliens coordinate their military operations. The attack began with electromagnetic pulse weapons that disabled the station's defenses. Evans' Marines breached the hull and fought their way to the command center. The Kethver defenders were tough, but they had never faced human soldiers before. Lieutenant Commander Nick Bailey led the boarding party. His men moved through the station like professionals, neutralizing resistance and securing critical areas. The aliens fought hard, but human training and equipment proved superior. Data cores secured, Bailey reported. Station is under our control. Excellent work, Evans replied. Plant the charges and prepare for extraction. The communication station exploded 15 minutes later, taking with it the ability of 3 Kethver fleets to coordinate their movements. Similar attacks occurred across enemy territory as human special forces struck at the nervous system of the alien military. The psychological warfare campaign began immediately. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner had prepared messages in the Kethver language, broadcast on frequencies the aliens used for military communication. People of the Kethver Dominion, the message began. You have attacked human colonies without provocation. You have murdered children in their schools. You have destroyed families seeking only to live in peace. This is the consequence of your actions. The broadcasts included footage from New Haven, showing the destruction of civilian areas and the deaths of innocent people. The humans wanted every Kethver soldier to understand exactly why the human fleet had come to their territory. Your leaders told you humans were weak, the message continued. Your leaders lied. We are not weak. We are angry. And we are coming for those responsible. The broadcasts had their intended effect. Kethver communications, intercepted by human intelligence, showed growing confusion and fear among enemy forces. Their supplies were disappearing. Their communication networks were failing. And somewhere in the darkness, human ships were hunting them. Commander Zethkes, the alien officer who had led the attack on New Haven, found himself the primary target of human anger. His fleet had been the first to attack human civilians, and Admiral Stone wanted him captured alive. All units, priority target is Commander Zethkes, the Admiral broadcast to his forces. He is wanted for war crimes. Take him alive if possible, but do not risk human lives to do so. The hunt for Zethkes became a deadly game of cat and mouse across 3 star systems. The alien commander was skilled and experienced, but he had never faced an enemy like the humans. Every time his ships appeared, human forces were waiting. Captain Tony Garcia commanded a squadron of assault ships tasked with capturing high-value targets. His vessels were fast and heavily armed, designed to chase down enemy commanders who tried to flee. "Zethka's spotted in the Kepler system," Garcia reported. "He's running for the asteroid belt." "Pursue and engage," Admiral Stone ordered. "Do not let him escape." The chase lasted 6 hours. Zethka's flagship was faster than the human ships, but it could not outrun their missiles. When his engines were damaged, the alien commander tried to hide among the asteroids. "He's trapped," Garcia announced. "The asteroid field has only 2 exits, and we have both covered." The final confrontation was brief but violent. Zethkes chose to fight rather than surrender. His ship's weapons could not penetrate human armor, but he kept firing until his vessel was a burning wreck. "Search for survivors," Garcia ordered. "Command wants this one alive." They found Zethkes in the ruins of his bridge, badly wounded but still alive. The alien officer was taken to a human medical ship where doctors treated his injuries. He would survive to face trial for what he had done to New Haven Dot as the 3rd week of the campaign began. The Kethfer military was in chaos. Their supply lines were cut. Their communications were disrupted. Their commanders were being captured or killed. The humans had not yet engaged their main battle fleets, but the alien forces were already crippled. Admiral Stone reviewed the intelligence. Reports with satisfaction. The enemy had lost 60% of their logistical capability. 3 major communication hubs had been destroyed. 12 high-ranking commanders had been captured, including Zethkes himself. Phase 2 begins tomorrow, the Admiral announced to his senior staff. "We've cut their supply lines and disrupted their command structure. Now we eliminate their ability to build new ships and train new soldiers." Captain Ryan Bell, commander of the EDF Vengeance, studied the target list. Military academies, weapons factories, and shipyards across Kethvar space would be destroyed. In coordinated strikes, the aliens would lose their ability to replace the forces they were about to lose. "Are we ready for full-scale engagement?" Bell asked. "More than ready," Admiral Stone replied. "The Kethver started this war by attacking innocent civilians. We're going to end it by removing their ability to threaten anyone ever again." The human fleet regrouped at the edge of the central Kethver systems. 300 ships formed up in battle formation, their weapons charged and ready. The aliens had finally assembled their remaining forces for a desperate counterattack. "Enemy fleet detected," reported the sensor officer. 230 vessels, approaching from 3 directions. Admiral Stone smiled grimly. The Kethver were brave. He had to admit that. But bravery would not save them from the consequences of their actions. They had chosen to murder human children. Now they would face human justice. "All ships, prepare for battle," Admiral Stone ordered. "Remember New Haven. Remember the innocent. Make them pay for what they've done." The greatest space battle in human history was about to begin. On one side, the remnants of the Kethvor military, fighting to preserve their civilization. On the other, the human fleet, carrying the anger of an entire species, and the determination to ensure that New Haven's children would be avenged. The battle for the Kethver Central Systems began at dawn. Ship time. Admiral Stone watched from the bridge of the EDF Justice as enemy forces approached from 3 directions. The aliens had assembled every remaining warship for this final confrontation. 230 enemy vessels confirmed, reported Commander Lisa Morgan from the intelligence station. "They're using a standard pincer formation, trying to surround us." Admiral Stone studied the tactical display. The Kethver were experienced warriors, but they had made a critical mistake. They were fighting to preserve a government that had ordered the murder of children. The humans were fighting to ensure it never happened again. "All ships, execute battle plan Alpha," Admiral Stone ordered. "Show them what happens when you attack innocent people." The human fleet split into 3 groups. Captain Ryan Bell led the center formation aboard the EDF Vengeance. His ships would meet the main HFY force head-on. Captain Danny Morris took the left flank, while Captain Julie Evans commanded the right wing. The first exchange of fire lit up space like a deadly light show. HFY plasma cannons met human particle beams in brilliant explosions. Both sides had powerful weapons, but human technology proved superior. Enemy shields failed under the sustained bombardment. Direct hit on enemy flagship, reported the weapons officer aboard the Justice. Their command ship is damaged, but still fighting. The battle raged for 4 hours. Ships on both sides were destroyed or crippled, but the humans maintained their advantage. Their crews were motivated by anger and the memory of murdered colonists. The HFY fought bravely, but they were fighting for a cause that could not be defended. When the smoke cleared, the human fleet remained in control of the battlefield. 57 HFY ships had been destroyed. 93 more were captured, or forced to surrender. The remainder fled toward their home worlds, carrying news of their defeat. Casualty report, Admiral Stone requested. 12 ships lost, 26 damaged, reported Captain Mel. We lost 340 people, but we saved thousands of lives by ending the HFY military threat. The victory was complete, but Admiral Stone was not finished. The aliens who had ordered attacks on human colonies were still alive, hiding on their home worlds and in secret bunkers. Justice demanded that they be brought to trial. Captain Tony Garcia led the Special Forces assault on the first target, a military command bunker on HFY Prime. Intelligence reports indicated that General Vothmer, who had planned the new Haven attack, was hiding inside with his senior staff. Bunker located, Garcia reported from his landing craft. Heavy defenses, but nothing we can't handle. The assault began with orbital bombardment that cracked the bunker's outer shell. Garcia's Marines rappelled down into the facility, fighting their way through layers of desperate defenders. The HFY soldiers knew they were protecting war. Criminals, but they fought anyway. Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez led the team that breached the command center. They found General Vothmer trying to destroy computer files that contained evidence of his crimes. The alien general was captured alive, along with 12 of his subordinates. Package secured, Rodriguez reported. We have the general and his staff. Similar raids occurred across HFY territory. Captain Beth Martinez led attacks on government buildings where political leaders were hiding. These aliens had voted to authorize attacks on human civilians. Now they would face justice for their decisions. The captured HFY leaders were brought aboard human ships for interrogation. Dr. Emma Wilson, a specialist in alien psychology, led the questioning. The humans wanted to understand why the aliens had chosen to target innocent colonists. Why did you attack New Haven? Dr. Wilson asked General Vothmer through a translator. They were farmers and teachers. They had no weapons. The alien general remained silent for several minutes. Finally, he spoke. You humans are weak. You care too much about individual lives. We thought you would surrender rather than fight. You were wrong, Dr. Wilson replied. We care about individual lives because each life has value. That's why we're here. That's why your empire is falling. The interrogations revealed the full scope of HFY crimes. They had attacked dozens of peaceful species over the past century. Entire civilizations had been destroyed or enslaved. The humans were just the latest targets in a campaign of genocide that had lasted generations. Admiral Stone reviewed the evidence with growing anger. The files contained detailed records of massacres, slave raids, and the deliberate targeting of civilian populations. The HFY had made genocide into a military strategy. Broadcast this to every remaining HFY world, Admiral Stone ordered. Let them see what their leaders have done. Let them understand why we're here. The broadcasts showed footage from dozens of destroyed worlds. Species that had been wiped out by HFY forces. Children killed in schools. Families murdered in their homes. Entire cities burned to ash. The pattern was always the same, and it had been going on for 100 years. The psychological impact on the remaining HFY population was immediate. Riots broke out on several worlds as civilians learned the truth about their government's actions. Many HFY citizens had genuinely believed they were fighting defensive wars against aggressive enemies. Captain Frank Johnson led the occupation. Forces that landed on HFY Prime. His job was to maintain order while a new government was established. The humans had no interest in ruling the aliens, but they would ensure that the new leaders could not threaten anyone. Situation report. Admiral Stone requested from Johnson. The civilian population is cooperating, Johnson replied. Most of them are horrified by what they've learned about their own government. They want the war crimes trials to proceed. The trials began 3 weeks later in the former HFY Senate building. Representatives from every species that had suffered under HFY rule attended as witnesses. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Commander Zithkas, the architect of New Haven's destruction, was the first defendant. Video footage showed him personally ordering the destruction of civilian areas. His own communications proved that he had deliberately targeted children and families. How do you answer these charges? Asked the human judge, Admiral Stone himself. Serving as chief prosecutor, Zethkis stood silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice carrying no remorse. I followed orders. I served my people. You humans are invaders. You have no right to judge us. We have every right, Admiral. Stone replied. You murdered innocent people. You targeted children in schools. You shot down evacuation shuttles full of families. These are not acts of war. These are crimes against all civilized beings. The testimony continued for days. Survivors from dozens of worlds told their stories. The evidence mounted like a mountain of horror, documenting a century of systematic genocide and cruelty. Dr. Anna Foster, leading the reconstruction effort, worked to establish democratic institutions on former HFY worlds. The new government would include representatives from all species in the region, ensuring that no single group could dominate the others. The goal is not revenge, Dr. Foster explained to the mixed crowd of former enemies and liberated slaves. The goal is justice and peace. We want to build something better from the ruins of the old system. The final phase of the operation involved hunting down the remaining war criminals who had fled to remote star systems. Captain Sam Rodriguez led pursuit teams that tracked fugitive HFY leaders across the galaxy. Last target located, Rodriguez reported from the Outer Rim. Former Defense Minister Krex Volume is hiding on an asteroid mining station. The capture was routine by now. Human forces had become experts at finding and apprehending war criminals. Krex Volume was taken alive, like all the others, to face trial. For his crimes. As the 4th month of the campaign drew to a close, Admiral Stone reviewed the results. The HFY military had been destroyed. Their government had been dissolved. Every major war criminal had been captured or killed. Most importantly, their ability to threaten innocent people had been eliminated forever. Status report on all. Objectives. Admiral Stone requested from his senior staff. Mission accomplished across all sectors, reported Commander Morgan. The HFY threat has been neutralized. New governments are being established on all former Dominion worlds. War crimes trials are proceeding on schedule. But the work was not yet finished. The galaxy had watched humanity's response to the attack on New Haven. Other species had seen what happened when humans were pushed too far. The final phase of the operation would determine humanity's role in galactic affairs for generations to come. Prepare for Phase 5, Admiral Stone ordered. It's time to show the galaxy what we stand for. The war crimes trials concluded on a cold morning in what had once been the Kethvar capital. Admiral Stone stood in the Great Hall where alien senators had once voted to authorize genocide. Now it served as a courtroom where justice would finally be delivered. Commander Zethkes faced the judges for the final time. The evidence against him filled thousands of pages. Video recordings showed him ordering the destruction of New Haven School. His own communications proved he had targeted civilian evacuation shuttles. There could be no doubt about his guilt. The tribunal finds the defendant guilty of crimes against sentient life, announced Judge Patricia Hayes, a former Earth Supreme Court justice. The systematic murder of civilians, including children, cannot be justified under any circumstances. Zethkes stood without emotion as his sentence was read. Life imprisonment without possibility of release. He would spend his remaining years in a prison colony, thinking about the families he had destroyed. The other war criminals received similar sentences. Justice has been served for New Haven, Admiral Stone announced to the assembled representatives. From 43 species. But justice alone is not enough. We must ensure this never happens again. The reconstruction of former Kethvar territory proceeded under human supervision. Dr. Anna Foster led teams of specialists who helped establish new governments based on democratic principles. Every species that had been enslaved or oppressed was given representation in the new councils. The old system was built on the idea that might makes right. Dr. Foster explained to a mixed crowd of former enemies and liberated peoples. The new system will be built on the idea that all intelligent life has value and deserves protection. Captain Frank Johnson commanded the peacekeeping forces that maintained order during the transition. His soldiers came from many human worlds, but they all understood their mission. They were not conquerors. They were guardians, protecting the weak until the new governments could protect themselves. How long will human forces remain? Asked Veltar, a representative from one of the liberated species. Until you no longer need us, Johnson replied. Our goal is to work ourselves out of a job. When your own security forces can maintain peace, we'll go home. The trials had revealed the full scope of Kethvar crimes across a century of expansion. 67 intelligent species had been attacked. 23 had been completely wiped out. The survivors had been enslaved or forced to live in reservations on their own worlds. Beth Martinez led humanitarian missions to worlds that had suffered under Kethvar rule. Her ships carried medical supplies, food, and construction equipment. The goal was to help these civilizations rebuild what had been destroyed. The damage goes beyond buildings and infrastructure, Martinez reported to Admiral Stone. These people have lived in fear for generations. They don't trust anyone in uniform, even us. The solution came from an unexpected source. Dr. Lisa Carter, who had survived the New Haven attack by being off-world during the assault, volunteered to lead civilian aid efforts. She understood what it meant to lose everything to Kethvar violence. I know what they're feeling, Dr. Carter told the liberated peoples. I lost my home, my friends, my patients. But we can rebuild. We can make something better from what they tried to destroy. Her work became a model for the entire reconstruction effort. Human civilians, not soldiers, took the lead in helping other species recover. Teachers helped rebuild schools. Doctors treated the sick and injured. Engineers repaired infrastructure damaged by decades of neglect. The galaxy watched these efforts with growing amazement. Most spacefaring civilizations expected conquerors to exploit the defeated. Instead, humans were spending their own resources to help former enemies rebuild their lives. Ambassador Sarah Murphy, Earth's new representative to the Galactic Council, addressed the assembled delegates 6 months after the war ended. The council chamber was packed with representatives from hundreds of worlds, all eager to understand humanity's intentions. Many of you are wondering what humans want from this victory, Ambassador Murphy began. The answer is simple. We want what we've always wanted. We want to live in peace, raise our families, and build a better future for our children. She gestured to a holographic display showing the reconstruction efforts. We could have enslaved the Kethver. We could have taken their worlds and their resources. Instead, we're helping them build a democratic government that respects the rights of all citizens. The response was immediate and overwhelming. 47 species requested formal alliance with humanity. Others asked for help establishing democratic institutions on their own worlds. The humans had proven that military power could be used to protect the innocent rather than exploit the weak. Admiral Stone stood before the memorial wall on New Haven, rebuilt exactly where the old colony had been. The names of every person killed in the attack were carved into black stone. Jake Morrison's name was at the top, followed by Dr. Lisa Carter's medical staff, the teachers from the school, and all the children who had died that terrible day. Did not die in vain. Admiral Stone said to the crowd gathered for the dedication ceremony. Their deaths showed the galaxy what happens when evil thinks good people will not fight back. The memorial garden stretched out behind the wall, filled with flowers from dozens of worlds. Each species that had suffered under Kethver rule had contributed something to honor the human victims. The message was clear. All civilized beings mourned the innocent dead. Billy Hayes, now 15 years old, placed a wreath at the base of the memorial. He had been visiting his grandparents on Earth when New Haven was attacked. His parents and sister were among the names on the wall. "I'm going to join the fleet when I'm old enough," Billy told Admiral Stone. "I want to make sure this never happens to anyone else." "That's exactly why we fought," Admiral Stone replied. "So children like you could grow up in a galaxy where the innocent are protected." The rebuilding of New Haven became a symbol of hope throughout human space. Families came from Earth and other colonies to start new lives. The school was built larger than before, with children from many species learning together. The medical center included research facilities dedicated to helping other worlds. Captain Steve Reynolds, who had commanded the original colony defense ship, returned to serve as the new security chief. The Guardian had been destroyed in the first minutes of the Kethver attack, but a new ship bore the same name. This one was larger and better armed, but Reynolds hoped he would never need to use its weapons. "The old New Haven was built on hope," Reynolds told the new colonists. "The new New Haven is built on hope, backed by the knowledge that good people will fight to protect it." The transformation of Kethver society took years to complete. The former military dictatorship became a federation of democratic worlds. War. Criminals served their sentences. While helping to educate new generations about the cost of hatred and violence, Dr. Emma Wilson established schools throughout former Kethver territory that taught the history of the old regime's crimes. Students learned about the species that had been destroyed and the suffering that had been caused. The goal was to ensure that such atrocities could never happen again. "Education is the best defense against evil," Dr. Wilson explained to her. "Mixed classes of former enemies and liberated slaves. When people understand the consequences of hatred, they choose a different path." The final ceremony took place 5 years after the New Haven attack. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered on Earth to sign the Charter of Galactic Protection. The document established principles for the protection of innocent life and created mechanisms for responding to genocide and war crimes. Admiral Stone, now promoted to head of the new Galactic Protection Force, spoke to the assembled delegates. "This charter exists because good people sometimes must fight to protect the innocent. We pray it will never be needed, but we stand ready to enforce it if necessary." The signing was broadcast across hundreds of worlds. Children in schools, families, in their homes, and workers in their fields watched as their representatives committed to a galaxy where the innocent would be protected. The lesson of New Haven had become the foundation of galactic law. As the ceremony concluded, Admiral Stone returned to his office and opened a letter from Linda Hayes, Billy's mother's sister. She had adopted the boy after his parents' death and helped him through the difficult years that followed. Billy graduated from the Naval Academy today, the letter read. He's been assigned to the GPS Defender as a junior officer. He asked me to tell you that he's ready to carry on the work you started. He wants to make sure no other colony suffers what New Haven suffered. Admiral Stone smiled as he read the letter. The boy who had lost everything in the attack had grown into a man dedicated to protecting others. The cycle was complete. Justice had been served, the innocent were protected, and the galaxy was safer for all civilized beings. Outside his window, ships from dozens of species moved through Earth's orbital space. They came in peace, carrying trade goods and diplomatic messages. They flew under the protection of the charter that had been born from the ashes of New Haven. The children of Billy Hayes' generation would grow up in a galaxy where attacking the innocent carried swift and certain consequences. The memorial wall on New Haven would remind